2006, the residents of Ashton Hayes got together and agreed to try to become England's first carbon neutral community. We were concerned about climate change, and we felt we wanted to do something for future generations and our grandchildren. And we also wanted to inspire other like-minded communities. We first set out to change our behaviours. How could we reduce energy? How could we reduce our carbon emissions? And then we went on to install renewable energy. So the project's now in its 10th year, and the results have been remarkable, not just in terms of the impact that we've had on our carbon emissions, but on the way it's changed our society. We have a host of social enterprises now, and we have a degree of confidence in the community that we've never seen before. But I don't want to tell you the whole story. I'd rather you hear it from the voices of people who've been supporting the project for the past 10 years.
And we've been involved with the project since day one. We were aware of climate change, although it was called global warming in those days, but it wasn't properly on our radar until the project was started. It made us aware of changes that we could make in our own lives that could help to make a real difference.
It gave people in this village belief in what they were doing. It meant it gave them permission, I think, to carry on, and in the face of people saying our efforts would be puny.
Our feeling was, whenever anyone challenged us about it, was that if we all said we're individuals, what use is it us making these changes in our lives, then there would be no change.
For the community, I think one of the things that's been really beneficial is it brings a lot of people together, and there's both a feeling of being involved in something that's very important on a large scale and an element of building a community with an effort coming from the community.
I believe that a lot has changed in Ashton since the community started on the Eco Project. It certainly brought organisations together to work as a community, and it's been a really positive influence on people within the village. Grace was at Ashton Primary School when the first film came out. She was 7 at the time. What can you remember about it, Grace?
I remember the cameras coming to the school. A lot of my experience of the project was through the primary school, and also I did a project with the brownies as well, so it affected a lot of the community, and I got a green blue Peter badge with the brownies. I think the project's really good because it's affected this community and it's also influenced others.
I have noticed in my time here a strong sense of community and of people willing to engage in wider issues, and particularly on questions of climate change, the environment, sustainability. Having come from big urban parishes, I think we lose that in some ways. And a smaller community like this can, I think, be an example to the wider world of people coming together, starting new projects, supporting one another and caring for the environment.
I think one of the ways that the Carbon Neutral project has affected us personally is around our decision making, whether that be around the type of car we might buy, the sort of holiday we might take, or the building work that we've done and the renovation of our home here in Ashton Hayes. It's really become a cohesive driving force behind the village, and a lot of new relationships are built on the back of the Carbon Neutral project, and one of the spin-offs is the Ashton Hayes shop.
Yeah, the community shop is a great example of people coming together. It's the hub of the village, and a lot of relationships have been built.
For new people who have come to the village, it's a great way to get an introduction, so great news.
All of these things, like the shop, the playing field, the pavilion, brings different people into it and makes people more confident about what they can do for the future. You see this as well in some of the social aspects that have come out of this group of people, basically, that get to know each other better.
One of the things that one cannot fail to notice within the village, of course, is the commitment of the village to trying to become carbon neutral. That's no reason for people to think that they're under enormous pressure to change. The change has been subtle but effective.
We came to Ashton Hayes and saw that it was wanting to be carbon neutral, so it was a perfect opportunity to build a house in the village.
We've been wanting to build an eco house or do something like that ourselves for quite some time. It was an opportunity to be able to employ a whole range of technologies and try and make them work together, ranging from very high insulation, the gold standard, heat pumps, solar cells, triple glazing.
All through the carbon neutral project, it's made us think more about the environment and why you should be recycling, etc. We also run a holiday cottage, and we encourage people to use the village shop. It's excellent to be able to just walk to get your milk and bread and local produce.
I've lived in the village all my life, so I've been involved in the carbon neutral project for the 10 years it's been going. The way it's impacted upon me is I'm currently driving a Nissan Leaf now. I could have never envisaged 10 years ago, well, driving, but also driving a car like this at all.
Here we are at Ashton Hayes Village School. It's the 25th of June, and this event going on behind us is quite remarkable. This is just an eco event, a sustainable Ashton event, which 10 years ago would have been unimaginable. But it's wonderful to see that the whole village has adopted the ethos, and the school is really pushing things forward. They've been really important right from the very start, and it continues. And just look at the range of stall holders here. The natural veg men are here, the organic gardening stalls here. There's just a whole range of village activities here. Everything from straw bale housing to organic food.
Carbon neutrality initiative, I'm positive, has had a major effect on the village in terms of the number of social enterprises that have taken off that contain carbon neutral objectives.
When I went to the first carbon neutral meeting, I was enthusiastic about what they were telling me, and I thought I'd better come home and find out what I could do to help, and analyse some of my fuel bills, which I found were horrendous, and then I started taking action in order to reduce those. Mainly things like turning your thermostats down, not having hot water on for longer than you needed to. Then I managed to get a good offer on cavity wall insulation and top up for my loft insulation, which I found was very effective. And the good thing about it is at the end of it all, I've probably saved up to 70% on my fuel bills. What I really enjoyed, of course, was getting together with other people and talking about what we did. I've had some exciting times sharing it with people in the UK and in other countries.
Ashton Hayes is one of the best practice about low carbon, pretty much like what we would like to make it happen in Thailand also.
Ashton Hayes actually is one of the good practice in UK and maybe to the world. So that's why we are here to see and then learn, and then maybe try to follow our role models.
I was interested more than anything else in the numbers, in the figures, in measuring energy. So I then went into that in some depth, found out quite a few interesting things about how much power was being used and how people were using it. Well, one of the things that I'd never even dreamt about doing was trying to get on the parish council, and it was being involved with the carbon neutral project that I was trying to sort of further the cause of the carbon neutral project wherever I could.
There's an awful lot of voluntary work, and people seem willing to do more for each other, and I think this has helped the village to come together and join in on a project that I feel is extremely important. I have been to another community where they were doing the same thing, and it was nice to know that we sort of kick-started something that has gone more widespread over the country. Once they developed the community shop, which has been absolutely wonderful for particularly the elderly and infirm people in the village, I've always done my little stint, and I think the community on a whole is more aware of the needs of people within the village.
The example of Ashton Hayes has been a great ripple effect to other community groups and inspire councils around the country as well. So I often quote Ashton Hayes as an example for other communities to follow in our work. It's the partnership between the council and the community that's been really important over the last 7 years, and a great example to share with national sort of groups as well.
I first came across the Ashton Hayes Carbon Neutral project when I came to write about it for the FT in early 2007. We were really interested to see how a normal village in England was taking on this challenge. It was a really popular story on the paper. In fact, they decided to put it on the front of their magazine, which there's a lot of competition each week for that, so people really liked it on the paper. And they liked it so much, in fact, that they came back about 6 months later just to see how the project has been going. So it's a really fantastic, interesting story. I keep reading about it in the intervening years. I keep seeing pieces about it. So congratulations on 10 years of success, and it's been a great initiative for everyone to follow.
It has given people in the village the confidence to get involved in projects and be convinced in themselves that they can succeed to do things that they never thought they would have been able to do. The Carbon Neutral project was always a part of not leaving problems for our children and grandchildren. In fact, what we hope to leave is positive things for our children and grandchildren.
When we set off on this journey 10 years ago, I was very keen that we measured everything that we did. So the University of Chester got involved carrying out surveys on a regular basis for the first 5 years. And then this year, we've done another major survey in order to find out how we are at the end of the decade. In terms of our carbon reduction measurements, when we look at like-for-like comparisons, it's a very, very encouraging picture. Our overall carbon reduction is in the order of 30 to 35%. And when we look at the breakdown between home energy, cars and flights, in fact, all components have decreased this time. Home energy continued on its journey down to about 17.5%. Flights still around 32% down. If we include offsets, that goes up to 56%, quite astonishing. But the big difference this year was car energy and emissions from cars, which have decreased by something like 40%. That probably reflects improving car technology and efficiency, but also some lifestyle changes as some of this cohort has moved into retirement and started to use their cars differently. More than 90% of people in the survey told us that they felt the Carbon Neutral project was worthwhile, and astonishingly 75% of them said that it had led them to think more about their impact on the planet and to take action to reduce that impact. In terms of the initiative itself and how worthwhile it has been, more than 85% said the Carbon Neutral project was worthwhile, and the other initiatives that we've been linked to as well, the community shop, the sports pavilion, and also the Snow Angels project that happens in the winter months. So we've learned after 10 years that not only have we managed to reduce our carbon footprint, but we've learned that this really is an engaged community here. 75% of people told us they're involved regularly in village activities, and almost 50% volunteer their time on a weekly basis. And perhaps most telling of all, 98% said that they were proud to live here. When we started this project 10 years ago, terms like climate change weren't particularly common in the agendas of international politicians or local people in the village. But we've seen that change progressively over the decade, and the changes here are paralleled on the international stage by a more positive outcome from the last COP meeting in Paris. One thing we've learned from this is that we're all in this together. And on behalf of all of us involved in the Carbon Neutral project, I'd like to thank everybody who's played their part, particularly all the people in the village who've been prepared to do survey after survey for us. All of this has provided us with a superb data set that's put Ashton Hayes in the forefront at national and international levels as both a pioneering village and one that's got a unique set of information that we've managed to collect. So thanks very much everyone, it's been a fantastic journey. So perhaps it's time to move on, and we're going to take things forward on a much broader sustainability front. The Carbon Neutral project as such will cease, but we'll now take it forward by supporting the Community Land Trust, which is aimed at delivering some of the neighbourhood plan. And of course, our community energy company will continue to do its work.